both Facebook and on YouTube. And I'm super excited because today is August 20th, 2024. And just like that, y'all, 76 days. The countdown to Election Day 2024 is official. We're 76 days out from one of the most significant and impactful, as they keep using the word, consequential elections of our lifetime. But I'm here today with a couple of new guests, and we're going to have a conversation, right? Remember, the countdown to Election Day 2024, which is presented to you by ColumbusBlack.com, is designed to talk about the who, what, why, when, where, and how. No cap. That means we're telling the truth, y'all. It's all about the facts and the truth. While we get to share some of our personal sentiments about this election, why it may be so important, at the end of the day, is about making sure we talk about the things that are critically and foundationally significant to our community, the Black community, and those that support us, our allies, because we want to make sure that we are engaged and involved from a civic perspective. So while we're not telling you where to vote, we're not telling you who to vote for, we are trying to tell you that you should most definitely leverage your right to vote. It's that important. And hopefully the facts and the information that's gathered allows you to vote for the right person that is right for your endeavors, right? And as a Black community, we believe that there are certain things that align with us and certain things that may not. So I'm going to leave it there. I am going to actually go ahead and introduce my guests to the show today. We're going to start off with Representative Humphrey, who is on the line with us today. She's state rep for us, District 2. We're excited to have you here, Latyna, with us today. In a moment, I'm going to have you go ahead and introduce yourself. But also we have Carey with us today, who's an education administrator on the line with us today. She'll be introducing herself shortly as well. I want to welcome these two sisters onto this particular episode. This is episode 3. We'll be doing this every week leading up to the election day, which is why we call it the countdown to Election Day 2024. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you. State Rep Humphrey, would you mind introducing yourself, telling us a little bit about your background so people that don't know you, they know a little bit more about you, and hopefully they will be voting for you again in the near future.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Lloyd. I certainly appreciate it. And to my esteemed panelists, Principal Carey, thank you for being here with all of us and being here with me as well. But as was stated, I am State Representative Latyna M. Humphrey. I have the pleasure of serving Ohio's 2nd House District. So that encompasses the entire east side of Columbus, the entire city of Whitehall, and then I have parts of Reynoldsburg, Blacklit, Canal, and Groveport. I've been in office for a total of 3 years. I am a 2-time author. I am a recognized speaker, and I would say I'm a pretty good legislator. But say all that to say, I'm super excited to be here, and thank you for having me.
Excellent. It is my pleasure to have you here with us today, and thank you so much for that introduction. And with that being said, Sister Carey, we're going to move over to you for your introduction to those that are watching live or those that are going to be watching this later on.
Yes, and thank you also for this great invitation. I am super excited to be here. My name is Carey. I am a Columbus homegrown graduate of Lyndon McKinley High School, Central State University, Mary Grove, and Ashland University. I am the mother of 2, Brent and Brianna Granger, who are graduates of Eastmoor Academy, as well as Clark Atlanta University. I am also a mother of a proud future daughter-in-law, future grandbaby, Brixley Elaine, grandmother of 2 granddogs, Tunchi and Rocco, and my second love, it be administrator here in Columbus City Schools. I am an assistant principal over at East High School, where I love to build on our students and lift them up to ensure that they have a voice in the community in which they reside.
Outstanding, outstanding. So you're building that foundation right now, and I take it.
You better believe I am.
All right, outstanding, outstanding. Okay, so listen, ladies and gentlemen, y'all have received the introduction, so you know who's now on the panel. You understand why they're on the panel, but I'm actually going to flip it right back to them. And Sister Carey, we're going to start with you. When you first heard that, hey, we have this countdown to election event on ColumbusBlack.com, and we wanted you to be a panelist, what excited you to actually be on the show, right? When you think about the opportunity to share your perspectives, what excited you? I want to get your personal perspective on that, knowing how important the election is.
Well, when I got this call, super excited. Although having interviews is not something that I do on the regular, I am in front of an audience. And so when I got this call allowed me to be in a space where I'm able to broaden my horizons, learn and grow from, as well as it gives me an opportunity to mobilize, engage, and empower those who are watching and listening.
Outstanding, outstanding. So listen, y'all, I forgot I was supposed to drop this disclaimer a little earlier. When I go like this, for those that don't know, that means that gems are being dropped. Something tells me that I'm going to get my workout today, and it's going to be some exercise going on because these sisters are going to drop some gems for us today, which means some knowledge is being shared. Now, the key thing about when knowledge is shared, you're not supposed to keep it to yourself. So if you hear or if you learn something today or tonight or whenever you watch this video, I'm asking that you tap the share button, okay? Do not keep this to yourself. You should share this with your network. One of the things that we're going to probably talk about on this call is misinformation and disinformation, right? And we're in a time where you want the facts, you want the truth, you want real. You don't want to hear about stuff that's not real. So with that, thank you so much for sharing why you were excited. Representative Humphrey, would you mind sharing your perspective on what excited you when you heard about this platform and the opportunity to join us tonight?
So any time that I am offered the opportunity to talk to my constituents, to talk to Ohioans about being engaged in in any election and talking about their civic duty, I am extremely excited about that. So when I got the ask, it was more so of a thing where, you've got to do it because this election any election is important, but this election is truly too important to not share my voice, to not share my thoughts, and to not let people know that they should be involved, because this is going to impact everybody, not just some of everybody, but it'll impact everyone. So again, just thank you for having me.
Absolutely. She just said it, and I hope everybody else gets that, right? The same way she had the passion and she felt like, hey, this is something that I have to be a part of. We're hoping that everybody feels the same way about this election. It's something that we have to be a part of, right? We're not forcing anybody. I know some people are on the fence. We're not saying, hey, go do it, but it's almost like a, hey, go do it all, right? So just realizing it's that serious. So Representative Humphrey, I'm actually going to come right back to you. And if in your own perspective, if you could share, why do you feel like, and everybody's talking about it, it's such an important one, every election is, but 2024 especially, and keep this in mind, we have been talking about it all levels, right? So you can play wherever you want to. We recognize that locally, statewide and nationally, there's a lot on the line for us, especially right in Central Ohio, the state of Ohio, and then obviously nationally. So jump in wherever you are so we can share some of those gems as to why this one is so, so important.
So again, voting just in general is really important. You're going to have openings for every office on every side of government, on every level of government. You've got folks you need to vote for locally. So here in Columbus specifically, your Franklin County Commissioner, your Franklin County Treasurer, in other local entities. And then in addition to that, statewide, you're going to be voting for your state representatives. And then nationally or federally, you're going to be voting for the president and vice president. And so this election is truly, truly important. One of the things oftentimes, and I got to share this because it's important, when we talk about voting, people think locally and then they think nationally, but oftentimes they forget about us on the state level. And so essentially for your local level, you've got your city councils. Again, you've got your county commissioners and all of that. And they have autonomy to do what they would like to do in guiding our communities in the way in which that they would like. But the reality is what they do is based off off of the laws that we as state legislators put in place. So everything that they do have to kind of pour from the Ohio Revised Code. What is the Ohio Revised Code? That is the laws, that is state laws. So anything that they do, they can do what they want, but it's got to abide by us. Similarly, the laws that we put together as state legislatures come from like we can do what we want, but we've got to abide by the federal government. And so this election is truly, truly important. If you want your community to go positively, as far as it relates to, or if you want your state to go positively, as it relates to state legislatures, you're going to vote for a good candidate for state representative. If you would like your community to go a not so positive way, you're going to be voting for another state representative. But at the base of that, at the core of that, we decide as a state what happens in our state and ultimately what happens in our communities. And so again, this election is truly, truly important. You're talking about reproductive rights, however you feel about it, you're going to be voting on that. You're talking about the potential cutting of Social Security. You're talking about the potential erasure, if you will, of Medicare. You're talking about the erasure of African American studies, gender studies, all these things. You're voting for these. And then ultimately, because we also, and I'm going to be quiet because I want Principal Carey to touch on this, but you also need to think about giving the people something that they can feel. So technically, when we're voting now, you need to understand that we're going to be voting for a president who is focusing on how are we going to lower grocery prices, how are we going to lower insulin prices, or how are we going to increase those? Are we going to be providing tax cuts to the rich, and are we going to be heavily taxing the working class? All of these things are important. And so that's why this election is so important, because you're going to feel the pressures of how it feels. You think the economy is bad now, you're going to feel the pressure of how it feels when things are going right and when things are going wrong. And so this election is really, really crucial.
If y'all wondered if she was passionate and if she was focused on why this election is so important, I hope you have your answer, right? Sister Carey, we're going to turn it over to you because we want your perspective as to why this election is so critically important, and we're going to turn it over to you.
And I'm going to say the same thing that my sister said. Every election is very important, and as a people, we have to get to the point know that every time there is an election that I have a role to play, because if we don't get to an election and we don't cast that vote, we have indeed voted. You may not know what you voted for, but if you do not cast the ballot, you have voted, and perhaps you have voted for someone or something that doesn't have you in mind, that doesn't have the things that you want. And see, as a people, we have to envision the communities in which we want to reside in. We have to envision what we want as a people. We have to envision that there is more for us. And the only way we can make that happen is to make sure that we go out in the community and empower all constituents, all family members, everyone within your school. You have to make sure that everybody get to the poll, because you indeed have a voice. And so what needs to happen is you got to look at the platforms. Who's representing you? And not everybody can represent me because you don't know where I come from. Not everybody can represent me because you don't know what I have been denied. And so until you know what you've been denied, where you come from, you can't represent me. You don't know what I want. So it's imperative that I get to the polls. First of all, know the platforms, because we better know what's at stake for us. And in this election here, I can't help but to think of my great-grandmother, my grandmother, my auntie. I can't help but to think of all the things they could not do just 70 years ago. And so right here, this is an election, baby.
Wow. Wow. Okay, y'all. Y'all notice
we got to get out to the polls, and we had to make sure that we four or more with us. We got to get to the polls in this election right here.
All right. Listen, y'all, if y'all not feeling it, I know I'm feeling it. I'm over here getting an exercise workout too, because they're dropping some gems with a lot of passion. So I'm going to open this up to you both, right? We all know that everybody's talking about gotta vote, gotta vote. And it started to come out a little bit in the last couple of seconds as well about getting to the polls, right? So in regards to getting registered to vote, that's one phase. That ends on October 7th, right? So that's the deadline. If you're not registered to vote, with some people have come off the voter rolls from my understanding, so you need to make sure that you're registered to vote. Don't take it for chance that you are. But then from that point on, you need to get to the polls. So from you all's experience or your wisdom, your knowledge of what y'all hear people planning for, what do we need to share with the community to make sure that everybody actually gets to the polls to vote?
Well, if I may, I'm going to encourage every listener to have a plan. Get a squad. We get squads for everything else. Get your crew. Get a squad of 4 or more, just 4 or more, somebody different, and plan. Actually, you know what? We're in this together. And what day are we going to go vote on? The polls open up, as you said, on October the 8th. Please know that the last day to register is October the 7th. Who's going with me? What are we going to do? Hey, what are we going to wear? This needs to be a fun event. Then we need I need for everybody to just post. Here is my squad of 4 people. This is how we're going to get to the polls. You might need to make a plan on this one. How are you going to vote? Are you going to send in an absentee? So do you have right ID so that you don't have to get there and then be provisional? So you got to have a plan on this one. We can't go in blindsided and not know what to expect. Oh, I thought I registered. Oh, I think I'm registered. Go and check your registration almost every day, because purging is real. Purging is happening. And so we have to right here. This is our next priority for the next 70 some days. This is my priority. Who's on my squad? Who's going with me? What date are we? In fact, we have a family pig roast every year, and of course, I'm gonna get up there and start talking. And so, as a family, I asked the family, let's wear these T-shirts and let's go to the polls together, so that we can ensure, because there is empowerment in having a voice and taking an active role and stance on that voice. So I'm gonna say a plan of squad of 4 or more. 4 or more.
4 or more. Who's on your squad? What you're wearing and what's the date?
4 or more.
All right. There we go. 4 or more. We're on back to you.
So another way I wanted to answer the question, because one, I think Principal Carey is absolutely correct. We need to have a plan. And if we don't go to the polls with a plan, we'll just be doing anything. And so you want to be prepared for that. You want to know, you want to make sure you have the correct ID. You want to make sure that you check your voter registration. You also want to check and make sure that there are not just poll workers, but there are voter protection folks outside of the buildings. You want to make sure you keep an eye on them just in case something happens where when you feel like it probably shouldn't, if you feel like it shouldn't. And then the topic of clothing, I'm gonna get back to your question, but I want to say this, because I think it's important. This election is really, really important. And I know people are going to be excited about getting out to vote. But one of the things I want to say, because they're going to do anything to turn us around at the polls, you cannot wear stuff that has a certain candidate's name on it. We're not going to tell you who's candidate or whatever, but you want to be mindful. If you want to wear it going in, and I mean walking up, and not wear it going in, make sure you got a hoodie on, a zip up jacket or something, because if you got something on that is showing who you essentially are voting for, even if you were to wear my shirt, they would turn you around, right? So you want to be mindful of that. But the
swag alert, major swag alert.
Because they will turn you around, and I could see that really happening with the type of history that could potentially be made in the next 76 days. But in addition to that, you talked about he talks about how do you talk to people who might be on the fence, if you will. I think that was a part of your question, Mr. Lloyd. I think, again, we've got to talk about how each candidate, essentially all across the board, but if you want to focus nationally, will have an impact on one's life. If you are not having those conversations, people could go into the polls being uninformed. Again, a lot of what people are going to have questions about, and I know we're going to talk about, is their pockets. How does it make you feel? How does, how is inflation impacting you? What will happen if this person is elected? What will happen if this person is elected? So we got to have those conversations. And we also need to make sure that this is something we need to do prior to election season, but just continuously, we need to make sure that folks know how all different levels of government work. Like I said, the city is different from the state. The state is different from federal government. All these things are different. And then you also need to understand how things happen in Congress. You have to understand that, because the president cannot do everything, whether it's Donald J. Trump or Kamala Harris. They cannot do everything. They are bound by certain things that are put in place. That's why it is a democracy, but it's also a republic. You have to understand that. And so we got to make sure that people have an understanding, and that happens prior to election season, of what the different levels of government are, but also understanding how each and every candidate will impact their lives. In a way in which a lot of us understand it is, how are you going to impact my pockets? Because at the end of the day, I want to save money. I don't want to spend it. And if I do, I want to spend it on what I want to spend it on. And so those are the type of conversations that we have to have. And I want to say this before I be quiet. Thank you, Mr. Lloyd, for having such a wonderful platform called Columbus Black, where we're able to talk about these things. Because if we don't talk about it, and we're seeing this prior to this election, folks are not going to Black media and having these conversations. So we understand what a Project 2025 is, so that we understand what Vice President Kamala Harris's priorities are as it relates to economic justice. If it's not for organizations like this, we don't have the conversations, and it's hard for us to understand. Not hard for us to understand, but hard for us to get our messages out. So I say thank you.
You're more than welcome, more than welcome. It's an honor, it's a pleasure, and it's a blessing. So everybody understands this. We've been around for 19 years, columbusblack.com, and it's a blessing to have the platform, especially at a day and time like this, where we need to have these conversations transparently and openly, and be able to get the knowledge that we really need out there. So thank you for sharing that, and I'm honored to be able to do it. Yes, Sister Carey, back to you.
Lord, may I just piggyback off of what my sister said as it relates to the economy? And so when we want to decide who's the best representative for you or your community, then you look at different platforms, as we spoke of. And so when I look at, we want America that will have the best interests of its people, and a not-for-profit America where they sell everything and the middle class becomes poor. So the poor is not even a part of the equation, right? The rich get richer, middle class get poor are not even a part of the equation. You don't even exist. Or do we want someone who, we want the working class to be able to not live paycheck to paycheck. We want the working class to be able to afford a home that are not so affordable these days. And even when we look around in our local community, we see nothing but buildings going up. You got to see it, and then the interest rate on homes, kids that are coming out of college with a college degree can't even afford. You can get an apartment and then pay $400 or $500 for parking. So we got to look at what kind of America, what kind of Columbus are we living in?
Go ahead.
When we talk about the local and state and national level, this economy. And then I know you can go to the grocery store right now and get 5 items, and it's going to be $100 and some, and you just picked up a few items. I know that gas went from $2.50 to now $3.50. Those are things we can see in the interest rate. So we have to take in a lot of things in account when we talk about who do we want representing us as a people.
So important. So we know that there's a few items, y'all have kind of hit it. The term platform, right, is being used, but we understand that there's some key things that are on each platform that resonate with the Black community. I want to open up the door for you all. If you had to narrow down and you say, hey, here are 3 things that we want to break down in layman's terms, right? And y'all could piggyback off this. But in layman's terms, so the person that says, I really don't watch TV. I know the election is coming up. I know it's a lot of riffraff. I don't like the drama. I don't like none of this stuff. They keep saying I need to go vote. My cousin is telling me I need to go. But what is all this about, right? Like, y'all have been hitting it, but if you said in layman's terms for the everyday average person just going to work, ain't paying attention to the impact of these decisions, if y'all could break down a couple of things just so that the everyday person could just say, I heard this, but it's a fact. They can go online and they can research it and they can see that. Anything y'all want to share, there's bread and butter. I even know Project 25 came up. People understanding what's on the line. What does that really mean? I'm going to open it up for y'all to just break some things down as basic as y'all can.
I don't think Project 2025 is basic. Like it
Not
is,
at all.
but it's not as basic as you would think. So, okay, how I would, and so you're asking me, who is an elected official, and I can't be political, but I'm going to try my best. But what I would do is I would do contrast, and then ultimately, redirect that person to go research for themselves. But what I would do is I would say, listen, okay, what I know is that what is being proposed underneath a certain candidate is what we call Project 2025. Now, what we know in that is a whole list of things that are detrimental to our communities. So I'm breaking this down in a way in which I can explain it, but it is very deep. So you have to understand that certain candidate wants to get rid of free and reduced lunch. You understand that they want to get rid of Social Security, bring it to what we call a privatization. What you should understand is they want to get rid of Medicare. What you want to understand is that they want to slash funding to take away from human services programs, if you will, that impact communities that look like ours. What I want you to understand is that they want to, throw a complete ban on abortion, all those things. And then that's how I would do the contrast. So I would say, this is what this candidate wants to do. And there's lots of other things underneath there. I know you said 3 things, but it's a whole bunch of other things. One of the things and some of the other things that the other candidate wants to do is they want to make sure that ACA stays intact, Affordable Care Act. They want to make sure that that stays intact. They want to make sure that insulin is set at $35 for every American. Right now, it's only for certain Americans who receive Medicare and so forth and so on. But we know everybody, not everyone, but every people across every stage of income of life have diabetes. That's what it is, whether you're poor, whether you're rich, whether you're middle class, whatever. So they want to cap that there. What they also want to do is they're going to ensure that the FTC goes after grocery chains who are increasing price hikes on food, therefore making it more expensive for us to be able to buy food. This person wants to ensure that the first-time home buyers, we talked a lot about housing, have access to funds to make that down payment. Lots of people can make the monthly payments, but when it comes to having a down payment, that takes them out of the equation. She wants to put people in a position, or that person, my bad, wants to put people in a position to create generational wealth. So they want to also make sure that families have the resources necessary or tax credits provided to them when they have their first child, $6,000 for the first year in a child's life to put them in a position to get ready for $1 million, and I'm being extreme, but $1 million child care payments that they're going to have to make. And I'm being extreme, but it's going to be a lot of money. There's no doubt about it. Then they want to also make sure every year after that the tax credit is set at $3,000 every single year for going forward. They want to put those things in positions to put families in a better position to be able to take care of their families and be a part of their communities. So I would make a contrast, and then, like I said, I would direct them to look up information for themselves.
Outstanding. Thank you for breaking that down, and then obviously directing people to the online resources to get those details as well. Sister Carey, I know you've been chomping at the bit to jump in here. It's all yours.
So in layman's terms, real simple, you have two platforms. And I can tell you the one platform, when we talk about Project 2025, it's based off of four pillars. I'm going to stop at pillar one, because the first pillar talks about the president being a dictatorship. Simply wants to dismantle the Constitution, what's in place. I'm going to leave that right there. Whereas on contrast, the other candidate want to allow people to be able to make their own choices, such as women. No one can tell you what to do with your body. It's your body. So why are you allowing a president to put laws in place to tell you what you can do with your body, whether you believe in what they do or not? It's their body. It's their right. So you have one who it almost appears as going to take away, dismantle, take you way back. And then another one who wants to move you forward and allow you to be a human first and make your own decisions. In two nutshells, freedom, slavery.
Okay. Just like that, broken down. All right, y'all. I think y'all have heard it. Different perspectives aligned with the same information for the most part, and facts in different ways. Hopefully y'all gathered something from that. Once again, if there was one thing you took away, I'm just asking that you share it with your network so that they can hear this message. It's so powerful. Gems are being dropped. All right. So now, as we get ready to wrap up shortly, y'all, we tend to hear people say, this is a big deal and nobody's doing anything about it. People need to come together. We need to do something about this, right? All the time. This is a big deal. We know there's a lot of stuff that's going on. Are you all privy to any activations, meetings, rallies, work that's being done by anybody, any organizations, anything coming up where if somebody wanted to get involved, get engaged, be a part of a movement to help mobilize our community? Any words of wisdom or any information you want to share?
Some easy ask right now, and I'm in the process of working with some others of the D9, and so that we can do some things that are easy. We have Little League football games every Saturday throughout the community. Mifflin Sharks, Northland, the Vikings, the Raiders. I can't even name them all. I don't even want to name them all because I'll offend somebody. But you have Little League games, and you have that generation of 19-year-old to 30 or 40-year-olds because their child is going to the NFL at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. See, and they're all there. So you can actually go to Little League football fields, which we're planning to do that. About 4 or 5 from each organization go to a field. You don't necessarily have to go inside. You can catch people on the way in the gate. And then on top of that, those who are there should allow people, if they're coming and they're identifying themselves and going in there for one go, allow them to go in there to see if anyone is registered or need to be registered. You have the Friday night football games. Also have people going to be signing up for that to about 7 or 8 of the high schools. Go in there from 6 p.m. to halftime. Register people to vote right there at the gate. You have churches. Your churches. Churches used to be a time, and that's where you went to be empowered to know as a people how you would move, right? And so it almost appeared that some have forgotten that we need to empower those who are within there, not to persuade anybody, but empower them to have a voice. So those are just a few things. And then I got some other things. I'm thinking of caravans and all of that, hitting up these lower voting communities to go blow some horns and everything else, and walking and caravanning to let the people know close to election day that you need to get to the polls.
Outstanding. Yes.
So I'll say this. I think Principal Carey is absolutely right. We have to be innovative and creative, if you will, with ways that we register to vote, because, and I'll speak for Ohio. However, I'll say this. A certain party wins when we don't vote. and another party wins when we do. And so it's all about how we engage folks. And we know for the most part, if we go to certain communities and we get them registered to vote, they're going to vote in a way in which to empower themselves, but not only that, to empower their communities. And so she's absolutely right. But the thing that I want to bring up, and I'm going to try to say this in a way that does not lean one way or the other, but what she talked about as far as low voter turnout communities is really real. It's not that they don't vote, it's just that they pick and choose which election that they would like to vote in. We have stats that show that, but what I can also say is that I represent a district whose voter turnout is extremely low. And so what we have been doing is making sure that we're talking to constituents in those low voter turnout areas, because what we understand is that if they do vote, they're going to vote in a way in which that empowers the community. And so what we need to make sure that we're doing is standing behind elected officials, if you will, or candidates or organizations, if you will, willing to go into these areas and empower communities. If we don't do that, it won't happen. You can't depend on the Ohio Democratic Party, the Republican Party, or Ohio Republican Party, whatever, to go into districts and communities that look like mine. Now, I love my party. This is not about a party, but the reality is what it is. I love my party, but the reality is they're not going in my community. Therefore, I got to go into an Eastland area. I got to go over in Barnett. I got to go in Driving Park. I got to go over on Seymour. I got to do all those things to make sure that I'm talking to my constituents to let them know, one, there's an election, you know about it, but also in addition to voting, what are your needs and what are your concerns? And one of the things we've been good about doing, and I say this just going forward, I want people to understand this, we got to start talking to people about what they need before election season, because otherwise it seems transactional. And it is transactional to an extent, but it just seems disingenuous. You're here because you want me to vote, but where were you in the in-between years? Did you talk to me on the in-between years? And so we got to do a better job at that. So I'm going to say that publicly, and I've always said it publicly. But if we don't go in our communities to ensure that people are voting, to see what their needs are, those folks are not going to turn out to vote. And so if we do that, we're going to see some things work in the way in which empowers communities, is what I'm saying.
Understood. Thank you for breaking that down. That is very, very important. So thank you for sharing that. All right, y'all, listen, I appreciate you all's time, but I know that there's a lot going on. About 3-4 weeks ago, the RNC was going on, and right now, the DNC is taking place in Chicago, and I don't want to get in the way of anybody being able to participate in that. So as we wrap up, if you all would share your final thoughts, and so this could be whatever you want to share at this point in time. You know, sometimes we come on these shows, and before the show, you're preparing, you're thinking, what am I going to say? You come on the show, you leave, and you say, I can't believe I forgot that. How did I forget that, right? I meant to say this. So I want to open it up. Each of you, this is your final message. Whatever's on your mind, your heart, your thoughts that you want to share with our community that you think will be impactful, I'm going to turn it over to you as we wrap on up.
As I said in the beginning, I need everybody to mobilize, engage, educate. I need for every household or everybody to get a squad of 4 or more. Identify a plan of when you are going to go to the polls, what day you are going to go, and be accountable for those 4 people. And then those 4 people go get 4 more people. But it is up to all of us to ensure that we are all empowered, educated, and mobilized in this election, because we're not going back. I'm not going back.
All right. She said, I'm not going back.
She said, I'm not going back. So agree with Principal Carey all the way. Have a plan, get out to vote, encourage others to vote, encourage others to do their own research. But then also inform yourself enough to try to break things down, because lots of times people do go off of word of mouth. Lots of times people go off of our sample ballot, however way you want to spin it. So I say, do your own research, do your own research, but then also inform yourself enough to be that word of mouth for somebody to encourage them to vote. I also say, if you want to be involved in your community as far as whatever political campaign, now is the time to do it. Organize, 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 mobilize, 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 and hopefully, I believe we will see a beautiful turnout in November. So again, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And more gems that were just dropped, right? Y'all got the message loud and clear. I believe everybody knows exactly what you need to do. I want to take the opportunity to thank State Representative Latyna M. Humphrey for joining us today on the show and sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, as well as your passion, right, to really mobilize our community to do their research, to get the knowledge, and then to go and vote, okay? Sister Carey, I want to thank you as well, right? And obviously you mentioned D9. For those that don't know, the Divine Nine and NPAC, the National Panhellenic Council, formed of the 9 organizations of fraternities and sororities, obviously putting some efforts in play to get into the community and do the work to register and educate as well, right? So that's what the organization is doing. As a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, excited for that to be happening as well. If y'all have anything to share there, feel free. But I just want to thank you all again. All right.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Y'all got it. All right. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up there. Y'all listen, ColumbusBlack.com is presenting the countdown to Election Day 2024 with the goal of focusing on the who, what, why, when, where, no cap. And hopefully y'all saw there was no cap on here. This was real as it gets. So you want to take that, you want to share that, all right? And with that, we're going to wrap up as we always do. Go to ColumbusBlack.com. You'll see this video posted. It'll be up tomorrow. You'll be able to see episode 2 and episode 1 from the last couple of weeks. Y'all want to check those out, and y'all want to share those as well. There are different perspectives from different leaders in our community, giving those perspectives so you can hear it from different people, because we all resonate with different folks, right? So very important. And just remember this part, y'all. In order to be more successful in your future, you need to understand a little bit more about your past. That's the reason why she says she ain't going back. And I hope y'all just had a blast. So with that, I'm out. Have a great one, everybody. We appreciate your time. Have a great one and enjoy the rest of the evening. I'm going to hit this